Welcome to the Arthouse Legends Holiday Special. Today we have the MovieDude Eric.
And this is Kent. And
this is John Lobster.
And I'm Lauren.
And we might have a few extra special guests coming in, maybe, who knows. It's an open mic night, so yay! Also, this is a live episode, so if you want to throw in a few things here and there, go ahead and do so, and we'll be keeping
an
eye on
live,
it.
And it's video, so you can see me play with my toys.
And for those who are listening to the podcast version, sorry, but you're out of luck. But this episode, we are discussing Star Wars, starring Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher. Lost my train of thought there.
This guy named Harrison Ford.
Stop it.
Somebody named Anthony Daniels.
Some
Kenny
guy
Baker.
named Sir Alec Guinness.
Sir Alec Guinness.
Sir Alec. Sir.
Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew, and directed by George Lucas. All right, so Star Wars. I know that in a few days' time from when we're recording this, the little movie is coming out that I'm hearing a lot of people like screaming over.
It's not coming out. It's Awakening.
All I know is people are actually pitching tents in front of theaters right now. I
bet they are. I bet they are.
I've already seen it.
I'm pitching a tent right now as we speak.
Oh!
I have a nerd boner for it.
We had to get a pun.
We all have unisex nerd boners going on right now for Star Wars.
My tickets are sealed in plastic on the Christmas tree.
That reminds me, my parents, they moved houses, and I went back for Thanksgiving. My mom's like, there's a box of your stuff in the garage. Your sister went through it and said it's hilarious. And I'm like, oh, God. So I went through it. I'm looking through, and I found my frame ticket from episode 1. And I was like, oh, I'm keeping this.
I have my tickets from episodes 1, 2, and 3. Unfortunately, the tickets I had for 4, 5, and 6 didn't have the name on them, so I couldn't keep those.
Yeah.
But, lovely days. And we start the tradition all over again. One a year is what I'm hearing.
Yes. I mean, we live in magical times.
Right.
We do.
But before we go, too far, I mean, I feel like we talk sometimes about our experiences with a particular film. What was your first time watching Star Wars?
Lauren, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Where you
I don't know, because I was really, really young.
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars was just always there.
Right.
I can't even remember. No, honestly, my dad took me to see Return of the Jedi. I was 2 years old. And the only reason why he took me was because he couldn't find a babysitter and he really wanted to go. So I don't even remember my first Star Wars experience.
Youngsters. Jeez. I don't remember my first time seeing Star Wars, but one of my early memories is going to the drive-in, and I think it would have been the 1980 re-release of Star Wars before Empire came out, because one of my main memories of that is getting the little Kenner booklet that had all the action figures in it that were coming out.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Those were the best.
That's my main memory of that. And then, my memory gets better as we get into 84 and let's go see Return of the Jedi. Yes. Okay. Like 3 times in 1 week, I think. So
I didn't see it in the theaters until the special edition, but I remember just watching it all the time on television. And
yeah, I didn't own a copy when I was a kid, but we used to borrow my cousins all the time. In fact, I ended up buying this copy off my cousin right before the special editions came out because he was making room on his shelf. So I bought this off of him, and then I bought the THX versions, and then I bought the special editions. Go me. And, my mom used to borrow from him all the time because my mom was a teacher, and whenever she would be redoing her classroom in the summer or stuff like that. She was like, well, I need some way to make sure that, she's not running around causing trouble. Pop this in the TV, and she'll sit down and shut up and not move for 2 hours, which was rare.
Oh, but I would watch, but I wouldn't sit down and shut up. In fact, I had all 3 of the original films recited to memory by the time that I was 7.
I used to tell myself the movies when I was in church. I mean, Star Wars was more exciting than church. What can I say?
It is.
Remember,
Sorry, Mom.
The Force be with you, Lauren.
And
also with you.
And also with you.
Except now it's "and with your spirit," and I don't like that.
What? Never mind.
I know, they changed it. They changed it.
Heresy.
Okay. Well, okay, so let's go ahead and let's make this clear. We're talking about Star Wars. This was even before it became A New Hope. This was
episode 4, yeah.
This is the one that the first sequel to it was the holiday special, which we will not discuss.
I've got Splinter of the Mind's Eye on the shelf there.
I've got it right over there.
Well, the first novel?
The book, yeah. Alan D.
The one
Foster.
that would have been the sequel if Star Wars had done poorly.
Right. The low budget.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I mean, let's talk about kind of how this movie got made, right? I mean, it was a long shot in and of itself.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that it got made was because of Ralph McQuarrie's fantastic concept art.
Yeah.
You go back and you look at it and you see, okay, everybody knows that picture C-3PO and that early design of Chewbacca that later became used for Zeb Orrelios in Rebels right now, which is on TV. Mm-hmm. And the picture of the character who would later become Luke Skywalker and a stormtrooper, and they both have lightsabers. And George Lucas was able to use these to kind of pitch the tone of what he was going for, which at the time sounded ridiculous. But he had these pictures. He's like, this is what it'll look like. This is what it'll feel like.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, we'll risk it.
Do we have the effects to do this? I don't know. Well, let me make my own company.
Right.
Which even if Star Wars had bombed, he still would have gotten good contracts from Industrial Light and Magic for the next 20, 30 years.
And he leveraged what? The merchandising.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But what was interesting is that even before we talk about Star Wars itself, we kind of have to talk about George Lucas as a filmmaker. He was from the new American wave of filmmakers such as Spielberg, Zemeckis, Francis Ford Coppola. These guys that in the early 60s, coming into the 70s, were wanting to change the game when it came to making movies. In fact, he was a part of American Zoetrope, and was a close confidant of Francis Ford Coppola, even as he was making, as Coppola was making The Godfather. So, and on top of that, with Lucas, he had shown both in his film school days as well as his first short feature, which was THX 1138, that he was capable of being a very unique and fascinating director. And then he pulled the impossible with American Graffiti. He took what was possibly the lamest possible idea of all time and turned it into the highest-grossing film of that year. And you got to give it to him.
A very good film too.
Yes. And what I have a feeling we will eventually get to at some point. But I will say though that if it weren't for American Graffiti doing as well as it did, Ralph McQuarrie's work, and having kind of the confidence, not just Francis Ford Coppola, who at this time was high on the mountain, but also a newly minted powerhouse director named Steven Spielberg, who just came off of Jaws at this particular point. That 20th Century Fox was just willing to give him just the tiniest amount of budget, $10 million, to make an epic science fiction film, which they in themselves thought was going to be more kind of a Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers kind of homage to. They really didn't see this spending a whole lot of money or being as epic in scale as what they eventually got. And I can only imagine what they thought of when they saw those first dailies. I mean, to the non-geek, this must have looked like it was going to be a ridiculously stupid movie.
Yeah.
Well, you go back and you listen to interviews with the cast and stuff, and they're like, well, what did you think at the time? And of course, it's famous how Sir Alec Guinness was like, this is ridiculous. I'm only doing this for the paycheck.
Right.
There's a great letter where he was writing about. Oh man, I'll have to find
Harrison
the
Ford.
text of it.
He mentions Harrison Ford in it as
Harrison Ford. He's like, yeah, this kid's nice, but he can't remember his name. He calls him like Maximilian or something like that. And he says it's ridiculous, and there's like an ape on the set, and I don't know what's going on. I forget who he's writing to. And
remember, Harrison Ford worked with
in it, but.
And Harrison Ford worked with Lucas in American Graffiti.
Remember
that.
Yeah. But and then these other actors on the set were like, yeah, it's the British actors on the set who were used to working in like B movies and stuff. They're like, okay, well it's it's going to be just another low budget thing, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have Mark Hamill, who, if you listen to interviews with him, he says, no, I grew up on these like morning serials and stuff like that. And this, I saw it and I was like, oh no, I know what we're doing. This is going to be wonderful.
Mm-hmm. I will say, if there's one person in this entire crew that, and I have to give it to the fact that because he was always on the Death Star set, Peter Cushing is the most comfortable actor in this entire movie.
Well,
that's because of what shoes he's wearing.
Or not bunny slippers. He's wearing just slippers.
Yeah, he never wears shoes throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
But
except in the long shots. But
yeah.
But I mean, Cushing. I mean, I have to admit, the last few times I've watched Star Wars, Cushing just feels confident. He feels like he knows his character.
Right.
He's willing to ham it up.
He's from the same school of acting as Christopher Lee. They were both in Hammer movies together. And Christopher Lee's philosophy was, there may be bad movies, but you should still never give a bad performance. And going back this past Halloween, I went back and I watched a lot of Hammer movies. And Peter Cushing brought this great, this really good level of performance to all of them. And he brought that same level of performance to Star Wars. It's like, it doesn't matter what he's in, he's still going to bring his A game. I really respect that.
And especially in the most recent times I watched these movies, I'll be honest here, part of me is like, damn it, I wish they didn't kill him in the first movie. I would have loved to see him do more, because he was confident, he was cocky, he embodies everything that you expect with a villain, especially a British villain. I'm sorry, we have to go there. But I mean, he's got all this. In a way, I say that he is the Jason Isaacs of his time. He just gets it. Yeah. And yes, I am name dropping Jason Isaacs because
we're gonna start mentioning people from
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, when you do see that Jason Isaacs is doing Star Wars, it makes sense, because again, he is in that same realm of Peter Cushing. And like I said, I mean, the first time you meet him, when he's coming into that boardroom, and he's just, I mean, he just exudes confidence. You know that this is the man.
Well, you have to be, as an actor, you have to be confident walking into a room next to Darth Vader.
Yeah, and he gives Vader orders.
Yeah.
He's the only one other than the Emperor who gives Vader orders. I mean, the guy's a badass.
That's true, but another thing that I really appreciate about this, and there's this time that I really got the vibe, and maybe it's just because I've been watching a few more of these than I normally do, but didn't they feel like a Bond villain in a way, and that Vader is the Bond henchman? That that he's the odd job, he's the Jaws, he's the muscle, he's the one that's gonna,
he's also the one who's got the weird physical quirk.
Yeah,
that's true.
In the giant suit of armor.
Right. That's the perfect model, I think, the way you described it, and certainly torturing Leia and then being like, oh yeah, well, you told us the location of your base, but it's too remote, so we're just gonna blow up your home planet anyway, just to make a point.
Oh, come on, that entire scene, I have more respect for that scene between Tarkin and Leia more than I ever did before, because the acting is on, and I got to give it to Carrie Fisher. Okay, let's be honest here. When it comes to Princess Leia, I think she changed the game when it comes to women in science fiction action movies. She's always in control. Even when she's not in control, she doesn't give off the
She doesn't give off the panicky damsel in distress ever in any of the movies. I mean, even when she's like, okay, and I know this isn't Star Wars, but Empire Strikes Back, when, they're dragging her away, she's like, Luke, it's a trap. She's not panicking, she's not screaming, she's fighting. And there's a difference there. And in this movie, I mean, she's just watched her planet blow up, and
you see the color just drained from her face. It's like, I'm not gonna break down, but you could tell that she is startled and she is.
And have you seen the behind-the-scenes scene of it where it's it's a little tennis ball and a stick and they go bang and they have to react, and that line, she's like, and you call yourself human afterwards, and it's like, oh, I kind of wish they'd kept that line in. She delivered it so well.
I know,
they did cut all references to human out of the
let
it though.
Yeah.
And I think that was the right move. Well, I mean, we have human characters, and one thing that is surprising to me now, and I'm trying not to get too caught up in the rest of the Star Wars lore, but with the exception of Chewbacca and a few puppets here and there, we don't really get a whole lot of alien creatures. Now, I understand that's budget as well as anything else.
Yeah.
Well, Mos Eisley.
I think that's the issue.
Mos Eisley Cantina is your one chance in this film to understand Star Wars as part of a much larger universe where humans really are kind of the minority. They might have settled on a few dank planets like Tatooine, but they're and kind of have exerted their control over the Empire, because all the officers of the Empire seem to be human.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is there's all these other races out there that obviously you don't know their names in the movie. I know that gets fleshed out in expanded universe and encyclopedias and stuff. So it's fun when you sit down and watch it. You're like, oh yeah, that guy has a name and a backstory. Somebody wrote a novel about him or something. But in the film, he's just like that weird guy who kind of looks like Satan, and you're like, well, what's he doing in there? What's up with that? Or he doesn't like you. I don't like you either. But all those guys have stories, and I think you find Greedo's the only non-alien character you meet who I guess really has a dialogue scene. And then of course Chewbacca kind of being the iconic, being the Wookiee, but and I think really you have to give the film credit for having main characters that you can't understand what they're saying, like having R2-D2 and Chewbacca being main characters in the film that only talk through their body language, or in R2's case, it's not even body language.
Yeah, it's beeps
and the little color thing that goes back and forth.
He moves his head.
He does.
He stages himself like an actor.
Right, and so that is so interesting and awesome to look at. And I sat down and watched it with Christine this past weekend, and she never watched it all the way through. And at the end, I said, "Who is your favorite character?" And she said, "R2-D2." And I was like, "Yeah, of course. He's
excellent choice."
It's right. So
in a way, R2-D2 is the audience. I mean,
R2-D2 is a friendly dog. R2-D2, he's basically Lassie.
No,
R2 is Luke throwing well.
If you follow the plot, R2 is the MacGuffin and the I don't even know, but like I know C-3PO and R2-D2 are the chorus and yada yada yada, but if the action of the story follows them, you go from their perspective on the cruiser to the planet to here, and then you meet all the characters through their kind of perspective, like them looking around the corner and seeing what's going on and things like that. But
how many people have seen The Hidden Fortress out of curiosity?
I have not. I keep meaning to.
Yeah.
The Hidden Fortress. Okay, so bear in mind that if you see the Hidden Fortress, it's the feudal Japanese version of Star Wars. It really does. Almost a big portion of the story practically is the same as the Hidden Fortress. In the Hidden Fortress, the story is progressed by these two foolish bandits that we're kind of following, and they're kind of the comic relief, but they're also kind of the way for us to progress from one scene to the next. And it's been very. George Lucas has even said that he took that part of the Hidden Fortress and turned it into R2-D2 and C-3PO as being kind of the fools that we're following to move. Now, I think that's kind of.
It's being unfair to R2-D2 because R2-D2 always knows the score. Like, he knows what's going on. C-3PO has no idea.
R2-D2 is, besides Leia, the only one who really knows what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, he's even again, kind of widening the spectrum here. Even if you go back as far as the prequels, I know the droids are the only ones that are in all the movies, and R2's the one that doesn't get his memory wiped.
Right.
R2-D2 is literally the only one who knows what's going on at any given time.
R2 is possibly the most deceptive person in this entire film because he's manipulating people.
Yes.
He manipulates. He manipulates Luke. He manipulates Obi-Wan. He manipulates practically everyone in order to complete the mission. The mission is his priority. It's his prerogative. Now, he isn't going to risk people's lives in order to do that, but you get the sense that if it comes between completing the mission or like Luke Skywalker getting crushed by a trash compactor, the mission comes first. And so part of that is kind of cold, but at the same time,
hey, R2's hardcore.
He is.
He is.
And I will maintain that R2-D2 and C-3PO still a better love story than Twilight.
Yes. Actually, okay, so one of my favorite authors, rest in peace, Aaron Alston, a few years ago, he went to a wedding of two male friends of his, and the cake topper was R2 and 3PO.
Yes.
I'm saying that R2 and the Death Star database is a better love story than Twilight.
They are the parents of BB-8. That's my contention.
Yeah.
The Death Star and R2.
He didn't use protection when he talked to the Death Star.
No. R2 will interface with anything.
And
R2, you know better than to trust a strange computer, R2.
Yes,
Yes.
I mean, R2-D2 is a slut. Okay.
He is. He really is.
This guy right here.
That guy right
Gets
there.
around.
Anyway, back to the 1977 Star Wars, nothing outside it.
All right, but I want to go back to the introduction of Grand Moff Tarkin again because there was an interesting story element that this time around I didn't realize that I didn't pick up on. Before Tarkin shows up and you have the admirals kind of all bickering and squabbling, there was one line drop that I didn't realize actually played a very large part, which is the fleet admiral stating that the rebellion was too strong and that the Death Star was vulnerable.
The rebellion is he said the rebellion they're too well equipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They get all the fancy toys, I guess.
And I thought that was kind of interesting, especially considering that as soon as Tarkin comes in, he's the first one to shrug off, like, why do we care?
No.
They're just a mild nuisance. They're not really a major threat. And in a way, considering that they are using hidden fortresses, that they are extremely good at preparing evacuations, which is interesting considering that they do kind of do an all or nothing gamble on Yavin at the very end, where basically they should have been preparing evacuation considering that the Death Star was right there.
I kind of see why they wouldn't, though. I mean, once you have this thing that's capable of destroying planets and capable of taking out anyone that helps you, I mean, this is a huge threat. Basically, if you don't neutralize it, then if you don't neutralize it right here, right now, then any hope of support
Yeah.
that you have
Well,
is
no.
gone.
You just do what they do on Hoth, which is that you send out your fighters to take care of the issue, but you don't just wait on Yavin
The thing is,
for
there
them to.
wouldn't be no rebellion afterwards. Nobody
There's
would be
no-
able to stand up.
There's
to
no
them.
second chance to take out the Death Star because
Exactly.
once you do that first trench run, that one junior officer that goes, "Oh wait, there's a problem."
We've analyzed
the
their
Empire
attack
wins,
pattern, and there is a risk.
The first thing that guy does is go to Vader afterwards and say, "This needs fixed." He whips out the plan and goes,
put some
"This is
bubble
bad."
wrap on that. Just
Yeah.
And if they don't destroy this right here, right now, that is the end of the rebellion. Nobody will be willing to help them if their entire planet is going to get
is at risk,
destroyed. If they even suspect them of helping the Empire. They destroyed
even
Alderaan. Alderaan had no weapons. Alderaan was peaceful.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that even if you destroy the Death Star, I don't see the Imperial fleet just deciding to just kind of back off and go, hey, we're not touching Yavin. If anything, they'll be rushing in because, hello, they're so strong that they're taking out a freaking Death Star. You crush them now. You don't wait for them to scatter.
The expanded universe did touch on that, where it's like within a week, ships were showing up to assault.
It should have been hours. It should have been a cleanup crew. It's like either A, the Death Star destroys the planet and you just mop up whatever's left, or
I can
B,
see why they wouldn't want to call all their ships to that area, though, because for PR purposes, okay. You can call all your ships. Wait. No. If you have a mass withdrawal of all your forces to this one area of the galaxy, it tells everybody at large that something is wrong. It would be like if all of a sudden, every troop in the U.S. military was recalled right now to base and then sent somewhere. And you're like, I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. You don't want to give the impression that something bad is going on because that lends legitimacy to the rebellion. Right. That tells people, hey, something's wrong. So you have to do some sort of strategic. You have to do this strategically.
The thing that I love is waiting for the Death Star to move around the planet to shoot at the other planet. When the thing blows up goddamn planets, just blow up one goddamn planet and then blow up the other goddamn planet.
It may not be able to take out a gas giant. It may have limits.
That's true. Also, when I was little, it bugged me so much that the time they gave and the time that it actually takes to reach Yavin is not the same.
No.
It was like, when I was little, when I would watch Little Mermaid, what I used to do is I would hold my breath in between the time it took for her to become human and the time it took for her to get to like the water to see if I could, survive. And it's the same with this. I'm like, okay, is it the same? Is it the same? It's not the same. Movies are lying to me.
No, I just find it funny because, so you destroy Yavin itself. It's called ball ball dynamics. You destroy one, it goes out.
Right, it should destroy everything.
What happened to the Ewoks, man, after that Death Star blew up in orbit?
Hey, no, Ewoks lived, okay?
I know, they got a spin-off TV show.
Yes.
Do we really want to go there?
Those have...
We want to go there. I will fight you.
We could discuss the Ewoks later, even though I think those all happened before.
They're prequels.
Yeah.
2 words: Wilford Brimley.
The ways that this.
If you ever get a chance, listen to the We Hate Movies episodes on the Ewoks movies. They are so good.
The way that this film uses time, I think is something worth talking about too, because a lot of things that happen throughout the film only work in a certain order. Mm-hmm. And again, there is a really kind of natural progression of the film, the way that it kind of happens, and it's always interesting to me when I rewatch it, and little things like the stormtroopers show up at the Skywalker Ranch and waste Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, like that has to happen.
It's a moisture farm, not a ranch.
Okay, fair enough.
Moisture ranch.
I don't know what flavor the moisture is. The milk is blue. The moisture might be ranch flavored. I don't know. There's also a season for harvesting moisture, which I was like, wait, what?
I saw a comment once. It's like, we need you to carry the buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Why do you think he was going to Tashi Station to begin with?
power converters. But
I like the robot chicken with
Ladies
the
and gentlemen,
and
the
now
power
the power
converters.
converters and it's strippers. So yeah.
Luke's making it rain on that moisture farm.
But again, the structure of the film is so tight that it really kind of only works when you do it in that certain order, and obviously like there's great examples like Obi-Wan gets the feeling when Alderaan is destroyed, and then you kind of get the sense, even though you knew Alderaan was destroyed because you just saw it, then Obi-Wan feels it, and then when they show up at the asteroid field, and they're like, "Hey, where's Alderaan, man? It's nothing but these rocks." Yeah. It all just works so well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about the Millennium Falcon specifically as a ship, as an icon status. What do y'all think about they call it a cargo ship, a transport ship?
The Falcon, a freighter. It gets called a freighter.
I want it.
It's a smuggler ship.
I want it.
Honestly, rewatching the trilogy recently, it didn't feel like a character until Empire. I don't feel like Star Wars, you get enough. In Star Wars, it's an extension of Han Solo. And it's more about building his character than it is necessarily.
It's a DC-10 in space. It's got dual turrets. It's got cargo. It's got enough space to live, not just to live in. I mean, hell, even Han Solo has a freaking office in that damn thing. Okay?
Yeah.
The only thing that really I still even now just baffles me is how the hell do you drive that thing with the cockpit all the way over to the side like that?
Instruments and
it's instrumentation.
I'm sorry.
There were World War II fighters that were dual fuselage like this, but the cockpit was over here, but it had two full fuselages. So the pilot was way off center. So it's possible Lucas was basing off of that.
Also, apparently, it was based on a burger with an olive on the side.
So. I like the design of the ship. I think it's really, really cool. It doesn't look like a rocket ship, which I think, and it doesn't look like the Enterprise or anything from Star Trek.
Yeah, it didn't really look like anything I think that had been seen at the time. Like people were so used to like the 1950s flying saucers or
and it has a flying saucer.
The fact that it has symmetrical elements, but it's also asymmetrical. And the symmetry kind of works different ways, where like it's kind of symmetrical in that you've got this horseshoe shape, but then you've got the cockpit there and the disc here, and it's symmetrical kind of like up and down where you have the cannons on each side on the axis and all that. Really, really cool. I think kind of the downside of having guns that you have to operate manually and only a two-man crew when someone else has to fly the ship and all of that. Like, clearly they don't get into a lot of fights, but it's...
Well, yeah, the whole point is they run. They're smugglers. That's why the ship's fast.
But so one of the best things I think that Star Wars does when it comes to giving you that sense of the power and magnificence of these ships is the afterburners. Come on. I mean, from the first moment that you see the Star Destroyer and you see those massive afterburners and the sound on those things just like disrupt. I mean, it sounds almost like what you would expect like an aircraft carrier to sound, with that kind of magnificence, that just massiveness.
These movies would not be as cool if there was no sound in space.
Agreed.
It just wouldn't be as fun because you wouldn't have the cool blaster sounds. You wouldn't have the awesome sound of the engines and everything. The rumbling.
I know on Rebel Force Radio they call John Williams' score the oxygen of Star Wars. I think it might be the sound because
Ben Burtt
Ben Burtt is a genius. Ben Burtt, I mean, just all the interviews that I've read with him, the behind-the-scenes stuff that I've seen with him. I remember watching From Star Wars to Jedi on the Sci-Fi Channel when I was a kid, which is one of the behind-the-scenes documentary about it. And watching him, talk about how he did the blaster sound with a high-tension wire, and just watching him walk around recording everything and doing the lightsaber noise with like a microphone and stuff like that. It was just the coolest thing ever. And talking about how you could get inspiration from everyday sounds and just mesh them and tweak them just a little bit to make them so completely alien. And I think about how if I'll just be sitting there, I'll be, knitting or something, not even paying attention. And then I'll hear a commercial or something, and I'll hear like the sound of a speeder bike, and I'll just be like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to hear. I have to hear just a hint of a sound from Star Wars. If it's R2-D2,
right.
If it's speeder bike, if it's if it's a blaster, if it's a lightsaber, if it's just any of these noises, and I can just pinpoint it. It's just so deep in my mind that it's just I hear that, and it's like the from Up with Doug, like squirrel.
Yeah.
And it's so quick.
I will say that if it weren't for the fact that George Lucas is a car guy, and anyone who has even a small inkling of car fascination, it's the sound. It's when you rev the engine, when you can hear the pistons running, you hear the engine roaring. That gives you that exhilaration of power and speed and everything that you expect with a machine. And so that's kind of why I say that it's that element. Like if you hear something that sounds like the Millennium Falcon, it's unique. Just like an X-Wing is a unique sound. Every machine has a unique sound, so that when you hear it, even if you don't see it, you know what it is. And that again, it's those kind of attention to detail in the technical aspects that I think gets kind of lost in translation. With generations that are coming into Star Wars, because again, the visual elements kind of, because they get so wrapped up, they get amped up, and we expect more visually. We forget sound is a crucial part of Star Wars, more crucial than any other science fiction franchise, I would almost say.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think part of that is the budgetary constraints of the original film, the one that we're talking about today, were such that it's at a certain point a model is just a model, and you can make the model move in cool ways and things like that. But how do you make it real when it's only 3 feet wide? Well, you make a really, really awesome sound to go with it, and I think that makes it tangible. And this is at an era where when you're going to movies, their sound systems are now robust enough that you feel the sound. And
that's true. But oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and I feel like this film hits at the right time. And remember, like, people didn't expect this film to do huge, and it didn't at first. It generated word of mouth, and then people said, you need to go to the theater and see this because an experience, and then it caught on. And I think part of that was going and experiencing the sound of it.
Well, theaters had to upgrade to a stereo system. They couldn't just do a one speaker. In fact, this wouldn't even be a drive-through, a drive-in experience either, because you couldn't get it with just one speaker. You had to have at least two speakers to give you that sense of immersion. And understand that I'm trying not to downplay sound, because you have to understand that before Star Wars came out, the movie that set the standard for space movies prior to this was 2001: A Space Odyssey, which they intentionally made sure that there was no sound in space. They were trying to go for a realism here. So again, when you have the executives like fretting all over, because they're wanting with a space movie, 2001 was the one that said it all. You want to kind of be able to emulate, and this guy is like putting, all kinds of sound effects. And again, remember that when Robert Wise did Star Trek the motion picture, he went straight to 2001. And when Paramount was wanting a Star Wars experience, he was wanting to go to 2001 because, again, that was the artistic move. And so, the audiences that were expecting Star Wars going into Star Trek were like,
Right.
What on earth is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember people, even into the 80s, early 90s, would bitch about Star Wars because it wasn't true science fiction because there was sound in space.
Yeah.
And explaining, it's part of the storytelling is that you have to hear the blast.
I
Yeah.
remember I got into so many arguments about that when I was in high school. It's space opera!
Yeah. And it's like, well, this is why 2001, it's like, no, 2001 is a 3-hour-long music video for classical music, which is how they kind of cover how to have sound in space, just play music over it. Star Wars did both. John Williams' score over.
And I guess, like, kind of like the other thing to mention, because now we're getting to like the territory of genre and things like that, and where exactly Star Wars fits. You have to talk about the Force, because I feel like with everything else, and again, talking about things that are tangible and things that you can feel and see, the Force is invisible. It is, supposedly everywhere and binds us all together. But in the film, you really don't see that much of the Force actually doing anything. And this is kind of before, really, we see things being moved by sort of mind power.
Yeah, it isn't until Empire Strikes Back that
Right.
you see telekinesis being used.
Right. So the Force can kind of make you trick people a little bit. It makes you anticipate where the little blaster droid is going to shoot you, and it helps you nail the torpedo in the hole.
And it helps you talk to people after you're dead.
Yeah,
Yes.
sort of. Yeah. And if you die, you just kind of like poof. You just go whoof, whoof. And you're gone. But again, like the Force is this big idea, but you never really see anything exciting that the Force does.
But it brought this hint of mysticism into
Yeah.
what could have been this hard sci-fi, well, not really a hard sci-fi world, but this presumably science fiction world.
It would have been very hard sci-fi without the Force.
Well, I think that's one of the key elements that Lucas specifically brought into Star Wars to differentiate itself from simple science, or not simple, but more science fiction,
like mainstream,
heavy-duty science fiction stories, is that he intentionally decided to go with a fantasy element, creating these kinds of things, and creating a lot of historical visuals. Like, if you look at Darth Vader's gear, it's Shogun. He's using a Japanese Shogun look for it. And when you look at Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's wearing samurai garb. We're talking about Eastern influence with a little bit of kind of European mysticism thrown in there for good effect. And then, of course, good old-fashioned American technology thrown in. So it's kind of got this international feel to it that, it's something that, and it's one thing that's a lot more fantasy writers and fantasy filmmakers will use, which is go back to the past, use an international look. Don't, kind of root this in what we know and kind of what visually is stimulating that is actually out there, so that it doesn't look too completely alien. And especially for Star Wars, it does give you that fantasy, historical, long ago, galaxy far, far away appeal.
I kind of want to dig into the costumes here for a second.
Yes, let's do.
I think that, okay, in terms of what you mentioned about giving it kind of that all-over hodgepodge historical look, I think that's kind of what... Okay, so the original Star Wars, 1977, it does have this kind of, I won't say dated, but you can tell that, especially because of the hair,
Yeah.
that's when it was made. But when you look at the costumes, like the Imperials, the Stormtroopers, Luke's outfits, Leia's outfit, Han's outfit, I mean, people still cosplay as this today. There's a post on Tumblr, it's like you can tell it's winter when girls start dressing like Han Solo. I mean, there is this sort of timelessness to the outfits that I think is kind of helped by the fact that they're reaching to all these different sources for the costumes.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. Han Solo is practically it's a pirate. I mean, if you look at, I mean, it's what you expect Errol Flynn to wear when he's swashbuckling. You know, with Princess Leia, I mean, she's wearing a tunic, which kind of gives you this Arabic kind of a feel to her.
Luke Skywalker's basically wearing a gi like you would in karate, something like that.
Yep. A learner.
And Obi-Wan is, you know, in pretty much.
He's in robes.
He's a samurai.
Yeah. Chewbacca's just wearing extra ammunition for his gun.
Yes, he is.
And no
Mexico.
pants.
No pants.
I still love the memo. They're like, can we put him in lederhosen? I mean,
lederhosen.
They're like, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, no. I mean, if you look at it, the Stormtroopers are definitely giving you that vibe of German. Obviously, World War II kind of comes into mind, but not just World War II, but just that kind of efficiency. They look efficient. Even though I know that there's a lot of jokes about them not being able to hit the right side of a barn. But
they can hit their head walking through the doorway.
They can hit their head walking through
the doorway, but they can't. Only Stormtroopers are so precise.
They can kill old people at a barn, and they can kill Jawas, and they can kill nothing else.
No. Actually, if you think about it, they only are. We've seen them at the beginning of the film being able to kill just really efficient.
Yeah.
And then it's only when Darth Vader puts his plan about using the Millennium Falcon to find the rebels that all of a sudden they can't shoot shit.
Well, so, I mean, here's the thing though. Like,
intentional.
If you have a fighting force, obviously you put the most competent warriors on the front lines, right? The ones who are good at shooting. So those are the detachments that you're sending down to planets and stuff. The ones that can't shoot for shit, you put them on your impenetrable secret fortress because they
don't have to do anything.
Yeah, they're not going to have to do anything except
nobody's
going to
board us.
You know, like one of my favorite scenes is Han Solo just running down the hallway with the gun.
Yes.
He's like and they're just running away from him because they're not prepared for that.
Well, the funny thing is,
I didn't think he was going to chase us.
Yes.
Well, the thing about that is that this is one of the it was that scene that made me hate Pain and Scan, because whenever I first saw Star Wars, it was on that box. So when you see him running after those stormtroopers, and all of a sudden he stops, and you just see like 5 or 6 stormtroopers, you're wondering, why is he running away? And then you see it in widescreen. You see that there's like 20 or 30 of them. It's like,
no, that was added to the special edition. That was added to the special edition.
Special edition is like 2 or 3 platoons of stormtroopers in a hangar.
They changed that again though for the DVD release. Now it's
they did.
Now it's just like 20 guys. But
well, no, I mean the special edition had like 20 or 30. But what I mean is that there's a lot more than just 3.
Yeah, no, there was more than 3. But I remember. The first time I saw Star Wars in the theater was for the special editions. And I remember being so blown away by just the sheer amount of stuff that I'd been missing at the corner of the screens for so long.
And
like in Jabba's palace.
It really wasn't there.
There's an alien that I've never seen before right over there.
Lies.
It was just all this stuff like that, like the Mos Eisley Cantina. I was like, there's stuff over there and over there. How did I go all my life without seeing this?
Is it special edition, or did they just cut it out every time you'd ever seen it?
Yeah.
So
I know it was
probably just cut out every time you saw it.
It was cut out, but it was life changing for me. I was my tiny little teenage mind was blown.
I watched what I believe is the fairly authentic theatrical cut of it, and the Wilhelm scream showing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did that stay in the special edition?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's still
Wilhelm
in there.
is
Yeah.
No, it's been Bert's like signature.
every Star Wars
Yeah.
movie is going to have the Wilhelm scream.
Okay.
And
Where-
the
yeah.
moment that they stop putting it in there is the moment that the fans will jump ship.
Okay.
They even have it like at least once a season or so in like Clone Wars and Rebels.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, you have to. I mean,
It's a thing.
yeah.
It is a thing.
Yeah.
It's as much Star Wars as I have a bad feeling about this. Or the big no.
No. No. Okay. So.
Which in this is Luke screaming no when Obi-Wan dies.
Yeah.
No, I love that he almost sounds girlish when he screams it. Just that complete total shock. But
Yeah.
one thing I got to give it to Alec Guinness, and I know that he hated every moment that he was on set here, but man, that moment, when he decides to let Vader strike him down, that is a powerful moment, and that's all Alec Guinness right there. I mean, just that knowing look, just him looking at Luke, looking at Vader, and knowing what he has to do.
He's got to turn into this guy right here.
Yes.
Little blue gooey guy.
And I will say though that when I was a kid, and and having known that he would turn into a ghost form, I always found it kind of funny that that he was like naked running for the Millennium Falcon, invisible, and we just didn't see him. Because he dropped out of those robes. Those robes.
He did, yeah.
So some part of me was just like thinking that there's this like old
running
man.
around the force, wild and free.
You got ghost robes.
Just imagine what I was thinking, especially with him in the X-wing, sitting in that single cockpit. It's like where exactly
the thing
was
about the X-wing is, and I have the action figure too. I can show you. Listen, you just take Solo's clothes. Here's Lando wearing Han Solo's clothes after the carbonite incident. He got the collared shirt, but
I'm still saying that there is a single white female esque element to that. That is so.
Robot
creepy.
Chicken had a really good sketch about that. It was great. But no, everyone knows that Obi-Wan only puts the ghost robes on for company. Otherwise,
I haven't gone by that name in a long time. A long time. I haven't worn clothes.
Like seriously, that's why all the residents of the Dune Sea are scared of him.
Yeah.
Like it's not because he's a scary wizard. No, it's because he likes to stand out in his French porch like this.
The Tuscan Raiders are like, nope, sand people, nope.
All right,
They walk in single file so they can avert their eyes when cast in the house.
The man has no fear of sand getting in private spots. He must be a badass.
Oh man!
Like, how many of you still get nervous when Luke turns on the lightsaber for the first time and starts swinging it?
It looks like he's going to jam it in his
He's
face.
gonna kill somebody.
There's
Oh,
a
he's gonna hit
scene looking at it like that, and it's like this movie could have ended a lot earlier if he had turned it on right then.
Oh, okay. So we know that Luke was applying for to go to the academy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just imagine that he actually did make it to the academy. How would Star Wars be different considering that I'm pretty sure that Vader at least looks at the roster from time to time.
Right?
And he happens to notice.
Well, maybe Skywalker is a more common name. He may have nothing to do with it, but
It was Star Killer, right?
yeah.
Well,
Oh,
no,
if
he called the guy a Star Killer. I'm sorry, we're talking about Unleashed. Or at least I thought we were.
Oh, no.
That's
In the original draft of Star Wars,
it was the Adam
Star
Starkiller.
Killer.
Well, first there was Adam Starkiller,
Adam Starkiller.
and then there was Luke Starkiller.
I like Biggs Darklighter. That's a good name.
That's a great
Yeah.
name.
That
Totally
Yeah.
a stoner.
The actor's still alive, by the way, still appearing in movies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Of course, we also have Wedge, the total badass. I mean, even from this movie,
Yeah.
Wedge just like you could see that he is the commander of the best fighter
there's
pilots
Wedge right
in
there.
the world. I mean,
He's
he is
second
really
in command of the X-Wing
Wedge,
squadrons.
the boss, Antilles.
He's not in charge right here.
no.
which
He is the reason why the Empire is terrified of the rebellion. Him alone. That is what I firmly believe.
Well, actually, I know we're just talking Star Wars, but if you kind of take into account Rebels going up to here, I get the feeling Wedge is ends up being the longest serving wing commander for a Rebellion squadron throughout
You can't kill
the three
him.
movies. Because in Star Wars Rebels, squad leaders are getting killed every single time there's a
Pretty
squadron
much.
of fighters. Battle of the Death Star, Red Leader dies.
Yeah.
And Wedge
Well,
was
Red
Red
Leader
2.
and Gold Leader die.
Right.
Yep. And then Wedge shows up, and Wedge takes out 2 Death Stars.
Yes.
Yeah, he's there for 2 Death Stars. He's the only one to take out AT-ATs at Hoth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll be honest here.
Yeah.
When it comes to his eulogy, I want to hear them call all of his accomplishments at his eulogy,
Right?
right? Because we're talking about not just 1 but 2 Death Stars, like 5 different fleets of.
I know this is going
yeah.
into the books, some of which are no longer canon, but there's a moment in one of the X-Wing books where some Imperial pilots and some X-Wing pilots have to work together, and you know how like pilots will paint their kills and stuff on their ship.
His are
So
squadrons.
Wedge's kills are in squadrons, and then he has 2 Death Stars. Like, damn, Wedge. God, I love Wedge. Best character.
Yes, I love Wedge. I mean, the fact that he is a Debbie Downer about the use of computers, which I guess considering Red Leader's, not using his properly, maybe he has a point. But I mean, my God, I mean,
Well,
he's
Leader's
so
hand
bold.
also shook when he hit the button.
Yeah.
He'll destroy a TIE fighter while charging at it. I mean,
Yeah.
that right there is some bold flying. I mean, this is the reason why he scares Imperials shitless. I mean, honestly, it's like as soon as they hear Red Squadron, they probably are like running for the hills because they know who's coming. You know, he's like the Imperial version of like the Red Baron.
He's the Red Baron. Yeah.
Do you think that one of the most appealing things about this film and kind of the Star Wars movies is the feeling that there are more stories to be told
Yes.
beyond what you see on screen?
Yes.
Definitely. It's the sense for me, one of the things that I always loved it was the sense that Star Wars was part of just this wider universe. Like you go to the Mos Eisley Cantina, there's a billion people. Well, not a billion, but there's like at least 20 people in there. And it's like,
There are
you
a
know
million
all of them have
stories in the Naked City.
You just hear about Jabba the Hutt, and you're like, there's
Who's
a
this
mafia
guy?
crime story going on at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And as the movies went on and the stories went on and more of these stories started being told and more of these characters were introduced and things like that. It's like it was just this huge world of possibilities. And that was, I think, what got me just so far into this universe. Just the fact that it is such a huge universe. And that's what has me jazzed for all the Star Wars movies that are going to be coming out, because we're going to get to see more of these.
Yeah.
And I'm just
All right, I have
so
one last
overwhelmingly
question.
happy.
Okay, I have one last question. This is a big one, okay? So I expect y'all to really think about this.
Yeah.
Now, we know what we're told, basically through the prequels. But when Obi-Wan Kenobi first says that I used to fight in the Clone Wars alongside your father, what did you think in your mind was the Clone Wars? Before we found out what it really was, what was in your mind? What went through your head as you
There
were
are many
thinking about the Clone
copies.
Wars?
Yeah.
So when my best friend and I were little, we always used to wonder about that. And what we finally decided on was what she said, and it made the most sense. I was like, yeah, that makes sense, was that everyone had a clone of themselves and sent their clones to fight instead of them.
Which is actually very close to really what happened.
Yeah.
I did not imagine that all the clones were Boba Fett. Or Boba Fett's dad, I guess. But or no, they're still the same guy.
They were technically Boba Fett because Boba Fett is just a clone of his dad.
Yeah.
Yes. They are. We are all Boba Fett.
Right.
Wait, what?
When they said Clone Wars, I just thought that like there were clones, and that was kind of a bad thing.
And there were a bunch of wars because it's plural.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, let's be honest here. I mean, they call it Star Wars. It's not Star War. So I'm assuming that we're kind of looking at different campaigns as different conflicts, different wars. You know,
it's interesting. I never thought about the plural of the Star Wars. Yeah,
It works better, I think, just as a title.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
War
Wars sounds too B.
War has kind of a finality to it. Wars could just go on and on.
I'm just so tired of all these Star Wars.
What are they good for? Absolutely nothing.
Say it again, y'all.
Well, if you ever, there's a Saturday Night Live from about late 77, early
Bill
78.
Murray.
Yeah.
Bill Murray singing Star Wars, these Star Wars, and it's just so bad that it's good.
It's hilarious. It's awesome. All right, so I don't think I have to ask you the question that we normally ask.
Pass, fail, or maybe?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here.
Should we do the geek sheet? Is there anything that we...
What have we not touched on?
Actually, Grand Moff Tarkin for a time actually also played Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's
in the
true.
direct-to-cinema movies for Doctor Who in the late 70s.
Wow. We didn't mention James Earl Jones, secretly the voice of Darth Vader.
Also true.
Yeah.
David Prowse, who was the guy who actually played.
And it's a good thing they did it, because if you ever get the chance to, somewhere out there is a renegade cut of Star Wars.
No. Go to the radio play. David Prowse plays.
Yeah, I have the radio play on tape, but I don't have a tape player anymore.
What?
But I think on Humble Bundle.
You could probably get.
On Humble Bundle, I ended up buying.
Just buy like a used car for like $200. It'll have a tape player in it. It'll probably be the only thing that works. But
no, I ended up buying on Humble Bundle a while back. The radio.
I think there's a guy named Star Lord that seems to have one that. Like 20, 30 years. Off the same batteries too. I got to give it to him.
There's a renegade cut that has cut scenes slipped into the regular. I think it might actually be slipped in the special edition that has extra footage, including extra scenes of Vader that got cut, where they imply that Vader is mostly there to keep an eye on Tarkin to make sure he doesn't go renegade, blow up wherever the Emperor is, and go, oh, I'm Emperor now. And there's whole conversations where it's like, Prowse, what are you saying? Because I can't understand you.
Okay, Lauren, this is a holiday episode, and I would feel amiss if we didn't offer at least one present to our guest. So here's the present that we're going to offer you today. We are going to let you pick one of the movies we're going to do in 2016 for Arthouse Legends. Anything of your choice, whatever you want us to do.
Oh,
this is our present to you for joining us for this very special episode.
Any movie I want?
Any movie you want.
Oh, God,
absolutely any movie at all?
Oh,
no.
Yes.
Within the criteria of shows that of movies we normally do, or?
Well,
I want you all to do Meet the Feebles.
Meet the Feebles. Come on.
It's a Peter Jackson movie. Come on.
It is a Peter Jackson movie, but I think Candace, or I think Lobster's right. We should have it under the criteria we normally have.
Okay. Under the criteria y'all normally have.
Of critically well regarded.
Okay.
Yeah, so it
has to be well regarded.
Right. It has to be fresh.
Whether you think it deserves it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Better that it's one that doesn't deserve it. Like
Could be new, small, independent within the last year or two, or more than 20 years old.
What We Do in the Shadows. Have y'all done that one yet?
No, we haven't done
pushing
that.
for it, and these
Kent
two
has
have
been
Do
not.
lobbying
it, do
for
it,
that
do
one.
it. It's
Yeah.
so good.
All
It's
right,
so
all right, all right,
good.
all right.
It's on HBO
What we do in the
now.
shadows will
Oh,
be
it
a
is.
part of our 2016 repertoire, and you are invited to join us for that episode if you want.
Yes.
I want.
So is Star Wars a pass?
Come on! You really need to go there?
Well, I
have
don't
a
know.
Star-
At the
I'm
time
wearing
it
a
came
Star Wars
out,
shirt, and I have a Star Wars tattoo. Do you really think I'm going to give it anything other than a pass?
remember
You have
Ebert
action
Ebert
figures for
didn't like
crying
it at
out loud.
first.
Yeah, like there were people who didn't like
There
it.
were critics.
I
Yeah,
guess
and they were wrong.
they were
Yeah.
very wrong. Is Star Wars the best Star Wars?
No.
I don't want to go there because if we're going to do that, we're going to be judging all kinds of
Yeah,
movies by that
I know.
criteria.
I know it's my judge. It's like choosing between which of my limbs
Right.
is my favorite
Sure,
limb.
sure. Like the left foot, whatever, but you still got to have it.
Oh, screw my left foot. My left side is my bad side anyway. But
To Jar Jar Binks.
no, I would honestly say for me it's between Empire Strikes Back because Yoda and Revenge of the Sith because I don't know.
Yoda.
I really love that movie. Also Yoda. Yes, I really love Yoda.
Well, I'll just say that Empire Strikes Back is my number 2 film of all time. So
Okay.
I don't think Star Wars is going to be number 1.
I really have to say, like, Star Wars stands on its own.
Yeah.
And I don't think all the Star Wars movies stand on their own.
No, but since
think-
they didn't know that this one was going to get anymore,
Sure, yeah.
it does a fantastic job
And-
of standing for itself.
And over time, it's interesting to note that other brands hook into the Star Wars brand to sell themselves. Like all these commercials going on. There's car commercials that are using Star Wars right now, this week.
I saw on the internet, like I forget if it was on Tumblr or Facebook, but there was clementines, like those little oranges,
Yeah.
and it has BB-8 on it, and they're like, "Calm down, Star Wars."
Yeah.
No,
Star Wars
they're
is
selling
really
taco
organized.
shells.
Movie because of all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, as a Star Wars nerd, I'm like, I love it. Give me all the Star Wars stuff. And on the other, I'm like, it's a little bit cynical, isn't it?
Was it
Give
for
me
the
all the
special
Star Wars.
editions or the prequels where they made like 50 different Pepsi cans?
It
with
was
Star Wars?
it was for episode 1, and I had like 6 of them.
Yeah.
I have all the Taco Bell,
Yeah. Sure.
Pizza Hut, and what
Yeah,
was the third one?
we have a bunch of those in the cabinet.
KFC.
But I mean, again, like you can't separate the merchandising, and I think that one of the strokes of genius with Star Wars is creating all of the characters and be like, look, every one of these fucking characters can be an action figure, and we will sell that,
too.
and then we will
My
write the
baby
tie-in.
cousin, one of my little cousins. Okay, I babysat for 2 of my little cousins last weekend, and they love Star Wars. They're both wearing Star Wars shirts. My cousin's like, okay, you should get along because you like Star Wars. And I'm like, so who's your favorite character? The littlest one says BB-8, and the oldest one says Jar Jar Binks. I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
And then
So
one of
I'm
them
watching
goes,
him-
Zuckus.
And I'm watching him play.
Darth
and
Jar Jar
he's-
by any chance?
No, well, okay, he had gotten his Lego Star Wars and built him a little sword and was flying him around on a snow speeder and decapitating stormtroopers. And then when we played Star Wars Monopoly, he wanted to play Episode 1 Monopoly so that he could be Jar Jar, and he forbade me from buying any property that had Jar Jar on it.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, this kid is serious. So,
Wow.
I mean...
Well, it's
I
generational. It's all generational.
And then he voted for special emergency powers for the Emperor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have found somebody whose favorite character is Jar Jar. So, I mean, good for this kid. He knows what he likes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at this particular point, let's go ahead and let's wrap this up. It's been an excellent holiday special. Thank you everybody for coming on, especially you, Lauren,
Thank you
for
for having
joining
me.
us. And next week, we're leaving a galaxy far, far away, and we're heading to Bedford Falls. I've been dying to talk about this movie for a long time. I'm really excited, and every time you hear a bell ring,
Every time an angel rings, a bell does
Gets its
something.
knocker.
a red bell gets its wings.
I believe it's called a clapper.
Clapper. Clanger.
Clanger.
Yeah.
Bomb.
Something like that.
Clanger.
Let's just say in the 40s and 50s, a clapper was a whole different thing. All right, but yes, It's a Wonderful Life is going to be our Christmas episode for this year. I cannot wait, and I hope everyone will join us for that episode. But is there any last words that anyone wants to bring up?
Favorite quote from the movie? We could kind of have that be our closing line.
Lauren, you want to start us off?
Somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way.
No reward is worth this.
I'm fine. We're fine. How are you? Boring conversation
We're all
anyway.
fine here.
Which I guess was all ad-libbed. So.
If it wasn't, he did a fantastic job of selling
Yeah.
it like that.
Oh.
It's like, look at the size of that thing.
Yeah.
That's the shit.
I
Star
should have
Wars out of
recognized
context
your
theater.
foul sense when I was brought on board.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is replace words in Star Wars with pants.
You came in that pants?
Get in there, you big hurry up. I don't care what you smell.
Yes. There's a lot. I remember on the Force.net forums, on the Jedi Council forums, there was always the thread of like the filthiest sounding lines in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was like, you
Come,
came in that
good
thing.
food, come.
Come, good food, come was always the number
Yeah.
one.
I'm endangering the mission. I shouldn't have come.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. I'm closing it off now. This is the MovieDude Eric
This is Kent.
This is John Lobster.
This is Lauren.
and Fiend.
Maybe he came.